and welcome to the Tynee Talks podcast, the podcast that educates and entertains, the podcast where you come to laugh and learn. I am your host, Tynee, and I'm back in the studio. Shout out to Point of View Studios and Point of View Films. They are doing this season's production, so shout out to them. Big ups to Jason. So today I'm going to dive into postpartum. So on the first season opener, we talked about just my pregnancy at advanced maternal age, also known as a geriatric pregnancy. So I want to get into postpartum. I don't know if postpartum, I can say that it is different this time around as an advanced maternal age mom than it was when I gave birth to my first child at 25. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that um, when you're 25, it's just a different set of things going on. You're trying to get back into some stuff, but like at this age, at my big age of 40, you're just more settled into things and you're just more aware. You're more keyed in and zoned in, right? So we're going to get into postpartum. A lot of times when people hear the term postpartum, they instantly think postpartum depression. But no, let's define what postpartum is. And I got my notes today. So postpartum refers to the time after childbirth when a woman's body is in recovery. This actually can last up to 2 years, well, between 18 months in 2 years of just the body just bouncing back hormonally. You go through a lot of physiological changes giving birth. So your hormones are kind of out of whack. They have to come back and regulate. Your body was carrying a whole nother human. So your body has to readjust and get back into realignment and all of those things. So postpartum can last a while. And so some people think it's just something that you can skate by. It is nothing that you can actually escape. You have to go through it no matter if you have to just immediately go back to work, if you have to go back to school, whatever was happening in your life at the time, it could get harder because you're slower, especially when you're older, like at advanced maternal age. I was very, when you're 25, you're sprightly. It's like you have a baby and your body just kind of snaps back. You do go through some postpartum, but the recovery doesn't seem as swift. I would say I would liken it to when you're 25, you're kind of like Wolverine from the X-Men, right? It's just like you got these wounds and it's like, you know. But at 40, it's like, oh, it just, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. The truth about postpartum is the bounce back is not the same. I just have to reiterate that. The hormonal changes are just great and overwhelming. And you're slower. I've noticed that in this pregnancy, kind of when they talk about pregnancy brain, they're not just talking about during gestation or when the baby's in your belly. It continues in the postpartum stage as well, because you were sharing a lot of your brain space with creating this baby. So your brain space is not just what it used to be. So you can become forgetful. You do forget things. It's imperative that you write things down, take notes, use your notes app on your phone, text it to someone immediately. When that thought comes to you, immediately act on that thought. Don't do something else because it is fleeting. That thought or that idea is fleeting. So a lot is just happening with the woman. So you may feel weird. You may feel like you feel strange. That's what I'll say. I've had strange feelings, and it's common, it's normal. You're not crazy. You're not weird. You're not any of those things. This is commonplace. Another term during the postpartum period that you may not be familiar with is known as the fourth trimester. Yes, the fourth trimester. I was introduced to this term from my sorority sister, my big sis, my dean, Dr. Jamila Goldsmith, MD. And after I gave birth to my daughter, she sent me a book entitled The Fourth Trimester. And what is the fourth trimester? The fourth trimester is the first 3 months after giving birth, and it is a very critical time for mommy and baby during this time is extremely important. I actually, with my first child being 25, I didn't really get to experience the fourth trimester in the way that it should have been experienced. With my first child, I had to go back to work when he was just 22 days old. I remember going back to work, and it was a part time job. It wasn't well paying at all. And one of my colleagues said, "What are you doing here? We can see your placenta." Of course, that was hyperbole, but I get it. At this at this age that I am now, and I was blessed to be established in my career, be married this second go around. I was blessed to have 12 weeks off with my baby, and so I was able to really live in the moment of the fourth trimester. So why is this a critical time? The fourth trimester is very critical because it's a time for mom and baby to establish their bond. Now, of course, I established my bond with my baby, with the first baby, but this is on a deeper level because I had nowhere to go. I couldn't go nowhere. Actually, I shouldn't have been going somewhere with that first pregnancy. But when you're 25 and you got a mouth to feed and you got bills to pay, you have to do what you got to do. So everybody doesn't have the luxury of getting 12 weeks off. But if you can take those 12 weeks, it was one of the best 12 weeks of my life. In some countries, they're able to get up to a year off. So in some countries, they're able to get up to 6 months off. And in other countries, they're able to get the first 2 years. America, get it together. Okay. But some companies, depending on who you work for, I know my OBGYN said she had patients where their company allows 6 months off. And that just would have been a chef's kiss if that could have happened for me, but that wasn't the case. I was not able to get 6 months off, but the 12 weeks were great. So this is a critical time. This allows a lot of skin to skin time. My baby recently turned 9 months the other day, and she's so big and juicy and cuddly, but I just remember that skin to skin time where I could put her inside my robe and just wrap her into me. um, During that time, it builds trust between mommy and baby. I noticed that I'm very close to my son, so I don't want to not say that. But with this baby, my baby girl, oh, she just craves me. She wants me. And I realized, in researching this topic, it's because that we had that strong bonding time for those 12 weeks where every day, morning, noon, and night, it was just mommy and baby. Dad would be there. Dad took night shifts. Again, having a great partner. We'll get into that. But he was there, but he had a shorter maternity leave than myself. And dads can get maternity leave now, so that's great. But we did need to have some income coming in, so dad went back to work after 3 months, and I had the 12 weeks with my daughter, and so we built a lot of trust. We built a very, very strong, connected, just bond with one another. Um, and during this time, during the first 3 months, which is the fourth trimester, it really secures that attachment, which is very important for the baby. We have to remember these babies come. I always say babies come from heaven. They come from heaven, and they've never been on earth before, and so we're ushering them into the world. There, we're literally the song "A Whole New World." We're literally giving them a whole new world, introducing into the world, and we have to hold their hands, their hearts, their minds, their spirits, the whole way. So this is a very crucial and critical time, the fourth trimester, and it is a beautiful time. During the fourth trimester, what is vital? A good partner and a postpartum doula and your friends. Number one, a good partner. having my husband just being able to do the night feeds, getting up with the baby. I heard stories, before I gave birth, I would be at work and they'll be like, well, you better get all the sleep you can. Those husbands don't get up, they don't help. And I'm like, you think that I carried around this big old baby for 9 months and the man who knocked me up not about to help me in the middle of the night? You a fucking lie, okay? No, you will be helping me. But, not to even say it in that tone like threatening, but come on. My whole body didn't change. My mind, my hair, my spirit, when you're advanced maternal age, all kinds of things can happen to you. Your teeth can fall out, hair breakage, hair loss, your bones are weaker, you need your calcium, all of these things. So get you a good partner that understands that you put your life on the line, because I put my life on the line, you will be assisting me, okay? And that's that on that. But nonetheless, I didn't even have to get with my my husband, a good partner, right? So you don't even, when you have a good partner, you don't got to preach to the choir. The choir gonna sing to the high heavens, okay? And he helps. So having a good partner, I cannot reiterate that enough, to help you through postpartum. Those night feeds, those cries, you crying, the baby crying, you crying some more. Oh, what did I do? The whole 9 yards, right? So that I also want to encourage you, if you can, to get a postpartum doula. I did not have a prenatal doula. I wish I would have got it in time. I did not. I didn't really know about the resource until later into my pregnancy, and so. And I'll tell you about that later in the episode when we talk about postpartum resources. But I did have a postpartum doula, and it was everything for me and for my baby. A lot of times, what people fail to realize, when a new baby comes into the world, everybody wants to focus on baby and how cute and loving, and oh my God, a new baby. And they forget about mama. Mama is really forgotten when mom needs the support, the extra hugs, the just to be loved on just as much as baby. And that's what a postpartum doula is. The postpartum doula is there to support mom during this time. So my postpartum doula would come over. She would help me with laundry. She would do the dishes. She would mop my floors. She would change my baby. She would feed my baby. She would allow me to just even go take a shower. As a new mom, a lot of times you'll just go days with, you're just breastfeeding and walking around. She would be like, go in there, take a shower for as long as you want, right? Because when you're a new mom, you're like, I gotta hurry up. I gotta hurry up. You gotta hurry up and do everything to get back to tend to baby. So she would come over during those mornings so that I could have a slower morning dedicated to me. So that I could pray, I can meditate, I can listen to, I like rap music, listen to my gospel. My husband called me righteous and ratchet, and he would be right. So all of that, I would have the time to do that with my postpartum doula. And she was always just checking in on my mental state. How are you feeling today? Because that is critical, because when nobody is tending to mom can slip into postpartum depression. During the fourth trimester, you'll need the support of good friends. Shout out to all my friends that called me, checked on me, came to see about me. Even, my nail tech, she always say, you okay, friend? Friend, you good? I just want to make sure that nothing's wrong with you. So all my, to my friends who have been there, the baby just turned 9 months. So, just checking on me throughout the pregnancy and after the pregnancy, which is very crucial. So shout out to Tonika, Shaniqua, Maxine, Shanita, Siobhan. I may be missing some people, charges to my head and at my heart. Oh, Tiffany, and just everybody who, would call and check on me to make sure that I was good and okay. That is very important for mom. So if you know of a new mom, she may be struggling. She may be struggling silently, just to get those calls of how you doing, or to laugh, or to talk about what's going on in the shade room, or, in pop culture, those little things, or just to pray with her, those little things help. To help her not slip into postpartum depression. So again, we talked about what postpartum is, and sometimes people put when they hear the terminology postpartum, they instantly think of postpartum depression. No, but again, postpartum refers to the time after childbirth when the body is in recovery, and then there's PPD, postpartum depression. So what is that? Postpartum depression is an actual mood disorder. And yes, I did experience some postpartum depression with my first pregnancy and with this second pregnancy. Um, when you decide to give birth, right, and the beauty of that child, they come into the world, you're like, oh my God, my baby, you're so excited. And then you look at the news and you look at the state of the world and you say to yourself, why did I do that? Why did I bring this baby into the world? Like, I hope that I'm not alone in having these thoughts. So with my son, um, he was born in 2010. So we were coming out of the 2008 recession. The economy was starting to come back, but then his father and I, we weren't together anymore. So then I thought to myself like, oh, we broke up right before he hit one. And so then, I started to feel really bad, about like, ah. And then with this baby, we're in it feels like it says that we're in 2025, and it feels like we're in 1955, if you catch my drift. So I'm thinking to myself, like, I have brought my baby into the world during this orange human beings era of reign, of total domination, as if we're in a well, this feels like we're in a Marvel, DC. Feels like we're in DC. I always feel like Marvel is happy, and I always feel like DC is like with the worst villains that you could ever come across. And I feel like we're in a very villainous era right now. So, it's kind of feeling like, yeah, my baby. And so you have these thoughts. So it is a mood disorder. You experience sadness. So there were points when I was sad. And my sadness came from a few different places. So I've touched on it. Everyone knows that my mom has passed on. But with my first pregnancy, I had my mom. She was right there with me the whole step of the way. She was excited. She brought my son gifts every day. And this is not an exaggeration. My mom brought my son a gift every day while I was pregnant. This is when he was in the womb. And then when he got out of the womb, she still brought him gifts every day. And that same mama who did not have McDonald's money for me, surprisingly, literally had McDonald's money for this boy every day. So, I end up experiencing an extreme amount of sadness with my daughter because I knew that I would not have my mother. And I would just cry and cry and cry like, wow, I don't got my mom. I won't have her. And she was in the delivery room with me. And, if you know my mom, she was in the delivery room being Channel 5 News. She was on the phone giving people a play-by-play and details of the pregnancy, from what the doctor was doing, from what I was doing, if I was breathing heavy, if I was like, this is my mama. So I'm like, I won't be able to experience that. And then it set in on me, my daughter won't know my mom. My daughter won't know my mom. And then that would just open up the floodgates. And again, having a good partner, my husband would be like, she will meet your mom every day through you. Every day she's going to meet your mom because of you and how you love your mom and how you speak of your mom. So that was very important. But that sadness really, it would just it'll take you down so low because death is so final. And it's like, I know I can't go and get her. So one thing to remedy that I did, I took my daughter home to Michigan to my mom's grave. And so I felt like she met her. So for those who have lost their moms and they have a baby, there's some healing there. There's something about that. And at the gravesite where my mom is buried, My mother is buried next to her mother and her grandmother. So at the graveyard, my daughter was able to be surrounded by the ancestors and the spirit of that. So there's some healing in that. So if you're able to do that, I would suggest that you do that. Postpartum disorder can also make you have a loss of interest in things that you once enjoyed. So it took me a little minute to get back on the horse of podcasting. Everybody knows that I love to talk, hence Tynee Talks. And I just wasn't in, I just could not get back into the swing of it. And through some encouragement of, some friends and my producer this season, shout out to Deshaun, kind of encouraged me to get back into it. Even though this will be my final season, I could not get the gumption. I just could not, kept trying and trying, but it was just like I was at a loss for words. Me at a loss for words. So I'm like, oh, I know that I'm going through some things, right? But it happens. You can lose interest for things that you once enjoyed, and you don't know how that balance will work in your life with this new addition, right? Because you want to put your time, your effort, and your energy into this new baby that you have to love on them, and you don't want you have a sense of guilt, like, am I putting my own pleasures before the needs or the wants of my baby? But no, as the saying goes, when mama is good, the babies are good. Sometimes they say happy wife, happy life, but I believe in happy spouse, happy house. So when the parents as a unit, when the top, the head, and everybody's feeling good and enjoying their activities, or needing those breaks and things they need, then the children and everything around that will thrive. So lean into your interests. Men, lean into your interests. If that's you just had a baby and fishing is your thing, go and fish. For the moms, if you were still doing Pilates or yoga or running or podcasting or whatever interest you were doing that brought you joy and delight, reading, journaling, coloring, don't stray from those things, because when you do, it'll lead you even to a further depression, because you're thinking to yourself like, why can't I do this thing? Some people refer to postpartum depression as the baby blues. So you're just kind of always crying and sad and melancholy. Postpartum depression is nothing to be played with. Some moms commit suicide. They can't handle it. They can't handle the pressures. They don't know how to get back to themselves, and they rather just end it all. With postpartum depression, I would encourage you to seek therapy or counseling. If you feel like you're not ready for that yet, then talk to a close friend, a relative, even sometimes a stranger. Strangers talk to me all the time. So they tell me things that I'd be like, you don't know me, but you shared that with me. I'm glad you got it off your chest. Some people just say I have a welcoming spirit in that way, and I do embrace that. I hold those things dear, but people have darn near confessed unaliving to me. So I'm just like, okay. But yeah, talk to someone. And sometimes it's just easier to get it off to a stranger because they're not judging you. I'm not judging you. It's just easier. So try that. Talk to someone. Get back to those things that you once enjoyed. And know that you made the greatest decision when you brought a life into the world, because where there is life, there is hope. So even when things look bleak, even when we feel like, oh my God, this world is crazy, that baby that you birthed could be the answer to what we're experiencing. That baby could literally be the antidote. They find the antidote to cure cancer and be like, you know what? I'm giving it to everybody for free. That baby could be the next brain surgeon, the next sickle cell cure, anything. You don't know what greatness you have birthed. So lean into that. I remember when I was in the depths of postpartum depression, and something that always just brings me joy or brings me out is comedy. Comedy, everybody who knows me just knows I love to laugh. Like, laughing is like By far one of my favorite pastimes. And comedian CP, Chris Powell. I don't know if y'all know CP, but I would find Chris CP Powell videos and laugh my face off. And also Nate Jackson. Nate Jackson does crowd work. Like, that's his whole shtick. He's a comedian too, but he's known for doing his crowd work. And like, it would just lift me up, like laughing. And of course, prayer. Um, Prayer is powerful. You draw near to God and he will draw near to you. You know, quote those scriptures. You got to say them out loud. You got to speak life. You know, we're speaking people, we're speaking planet, and words are powerful. So prayer and comedy um, really got me through those moments. So I don't know what that thing is for you. You know, find your thing to help you climb out of the pits of that depression. Because it can feel overwhelming and it can feel heavy. And just looking at that baby, you know, some moms who experience postpartum or the baby blues, that they don't even want contact with the baby. I did not go through that part of it, but some moms do. And if you notice that, if you notice a friend or you happen to be that person, truly cry out for help. If you got to cry out to God and scream and yell and kick, or cry out to somebody in your household, or church, or everybody doesn't go to church, but somebody, there's resources at your job, there's EAP, there's maybe the one of the moms in the PTA, or maybe not in the PTA, or you're just standing in the line somewhere, so you just spark up that conversation to get it off your chest. You'll be surprised at how many people relate to you or can offer you some support. So here are some resources for postpartum moms. The first resource is the book, The Fourth Trimester by Kimberly Ann Johnson. This book can be found on Audible, Amazon, maybe your local library, but definitely Barnes & Noble for sure. Get that book, get acquainted with it, hug it, kiss it, love it, okay? But a number one resource, if you're in the Dallas area, there is a resource called Delighted to Doula. Delighted to Doula is literally the name. They are literally delighted to doula for you. They will, as I mentioned earlier, I had a postpartum doula. My postpartum doula came from Delighted to Doula. They'll come to your home. You get free visits with them, and they come and just meet your needs as a mom. They come and sit with you and ask, what do you need? And they will meet that need. If you do not live in the Dallas area, just Google in your local area what doula services are available, and I promise you it will change your life. Whether you're single or married, having that extra person to come help you assist with your baby really brings you to that feeling of the village. We're always talking about we need to get back to the village. Well, having a doula will be that village that you need. I would also encourage you, if you live in the Dallas area, to go to this clinic called Abide Women's Services. They offer counseling, prenatal treatment, postnatal treatment, and they are also how I was able to get in contact with Delighted to Doula, by going to Abide Women's Services, made up of women, Black women of color, and other women of color. They specifically cater to them. They serve all women, but they specifically want to target Black and brown ladies. I would also encourage you to eat well, eat a nutritious meal and diet. I know sometimes it just sounds, some of this stuff sounds cliche, but really it'd be the most basic of things that goes a long way. So eat a nutritious meal, lots of protein, lots of water, hydrate, especially if you're going to breastfeed. You got to replenish your system. Breastfeeding drains you. It takes 600 to 700 calories every time you pump or feed directly from mouth to boob. So make sure you're doing those things. Lean into your church. See what resources that your church offers for mothers. Your church is a heck of a resource. Again, everybody doesn't go to church. So go to your local library. You know, shout out to LeVar Burton and Reading Rainbow, who taught us back 40 years ago in the 1980s that your local library is literally where it's at. They have parenting classes, they have birthing classes, they have mommy and me classes, they have baby classes. They even have days where they'll just read to the baby, help them with shapes and colors and tumbling, and they have texture boards. You're like, what's a texture board? Like babies, they're learning the world, right? They just got here from heaven to help them like figure out the different feels, sandpaper, carpet, all the things. The library is an excellent resource. So if you haven't done so, go renew that library card or go open up one. You will thank me later or in advance. But go to the library. That's a great resource. Lean into your family, your village, and your network. They will be your greatest resource. Lean into that person that if you are a first time mom, talk to the elders, and don't be so quick to write people off. Well, I don't want to parent like Aunt Cheryl parented or whatever. You don't have to parent like her, but she may have some advice that could help you that you didn't even think about. Lean in, ask questions, ask the elders, ask moms and ask dads, ask your friends. All of these people are there. I always feel like you can learn something from anyone. So ask the questions, lean into the help, and I hope that these are some great resources that you look into, even if you're a prenatal mom or in the postpartum stage of being a mom. Okay? And thank you for tuning into this episode of the Tynee Talks podcast, the podcast that educates and entertains, where you come to laugh and learn. I hope you learned a lot this episode. I hope you understood the severity and the importance of the postpartum time. So if there is a mom in your life, be very gentle, especially a new mom. Be very gentle with that new mom. They're very fragile. Their feelings are fragile. Their bodies are fragile. Their hearts are fragile. Everything is just recalibrating during this postpartum time. And remember, postpartum can last up to 2 years. So show those postpartum moms grace. Grace goes a long way. Grace is sufficient. Be sure to follow me on YouTube at Tynee Talks, also on Instagram at Tynee Talks. Remember, Tynee Talks.
Tynee Talks right listen. Here. We're going to talk about it right here. We're going to talk about everything you like. I'm going to make it real clear. It's Tynee Talks right here. We're going to talk about it right here. I'm going to talk about everything you like. I'm going to make it real clear because it's Tynee Talks. And I'm going to talk about it. Yeah, because it's Tynee Talks.